My name is Johnny Kyles, and I am considered to be the sales and merchandising lead here at Perez Nursery.
Okay. And if you could tell me which or how can readers prep their gardens against the cold winter temperatures? Now I know we don't really know what's planted, but let's say
Right.
the obvious stuff like grass and
Oh
plants like
well,
that. So
if well, let's start with lawns and grass. It means to prep that basically. In this area, there's a certain kind of grass that you have, and it's mostly what they call evergreen or year-round, but it's green. But it does need to be what they call thatched at some point, and it doesn't have to be thatched every year or every fall, but say every few years because you want to promote new growth so that you have a greener, fresher lawn come spring.
now what is thatching?
Thatching is basically almost like raking it. It's a machine that you use, and you can rent that at a like home Lowe's or a big box store, where you basically just go over your lawn and it basically rakes digs down deep and thatch the lawn, and pulls out all of the old dead grass.
Okay. And I know succulents are starting to become more popular, especially here in California because of the heat and everything.
Uh-huh.
Is there anything that succulents might need against cold temperatures if they're already been planted?
Uh, yeah, most succulents really don't like the cold. That means that um, in particularly in our area here, which is like in zone, I think we're in 9A or 9B. Um, you don't have to worry a lot about the temperature dropping so much that it would damage your succulents. But if it does continuously from night to night or day to day, where temperatures get down somewhere even a little above freezing, then you might want to protect them with like a fabric cloth or something that you throw over them. But that doesn't happen very often.
So I said succulents, but are there any other plants that may need some kind of like covering or anything
Oh
like
yeah,
that? That are very.
there are certain plants, especially like perennials. Obviously, annuals. I mean, those are seasonal. So those this time of year in the fall and winter, they're almost done, and so you replant them next spring. But some perennials, you just have depending on what it is, that are not cold hardy, which means that they don't withstand the cold, and cold out here usually means anywhere like either a few degrees above freezing or frost. Then that's when you want to protect those
And what are some examples of some perennials that most people that are most common? You think like you've seen people
that
buy
need
from here?
protection.
Yeah, and will need protection as well.
A lot of perennials, such as say for instance, even though you don't have to protect them that much, but hydrangeas, especially the big leaf hydrangeas, those, even though they go dormant, which means they lose all their leaves in the winter, you do want to protect the branches or the root ball itself.
Okay. And are there? So we talked about cold temperatures. How can people protect their gardens that have already been planted against rain?
No, out here we welcome the rain.
Also, rain is good for all plants as
Oh
much as it
yeah,
can.
yeah.
Okay.
Because what happens is, especially perennials and even perennial shrubs, when they go dormant in the winter, what they're doing is they're becoming sort of going to sleep, and
Mm-hmm.
then the rain that we get, which is not a lot, but the rain that we get is good for them because it's giving them a head start in the spring. That means that the new growth is happening, not necessarily above ground because they're dormant, but the roots are growing, which means that you have a better plant in the spring.
Okay. And that's even when we have really wet winters like we had last year. It's still
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
as a good thing.
yeah.
Okay. Now, are there any annual blooms that residents can begin to plant this time of year?
Oh, blooms, yeah. There are some perennials that that you plant this time of year, but as far most of them are going to be annuals, such as pansies for the fall and winter, pansies, mums specifically for the fall, and then for the winter, you probably will end up switching some of those pansies out to cyclamen or primrose for the winter, and that's actually blooming in the winter.
Is there like a difference between? Well, we said already that rainy winter is a good winter
Yes.
for plants.
Uh-huh.
But are there any that are more suitable for rainy winter versus dry winters, or ones that need a lot more water than others? Or
Yeah, the only ones that you have to worry about as far as the dry side of it is that some of the perennials and shrubs, the ones that are very drought tolerant, um, that drought tolerant means that they don't like a lot of water, and so in the winter, if we do get a lot of rain, that means that you need to just don't give them extra water at all. They'll be okay with just the rainwater, but all at the same time, when spring rolls around and we've had a heavy wet winter, that means that you need to not start out watering like you normally do, during early spring. So you would just hold off on the watering a bit so they can dry out. And also, too, you got to make sure that those plants have really good drainage. That means the soil has to be set up for good drainage.
I noticed you have some fruit trees out there. Are there any fruit trees that are best for winter, or is there any protection they might need during winter or anything like that?
So the fruit trees, obviously, all fruit trees are deciduous. That means they go heavy dormancy. They lose all their leaves, and there's no fruit left on them. So that is always the opportunity to prune them. And pruning is required with fruit trees because you want more branches in the spring, so you have more blooms, which means more fruit. Um, but as far as protecting them, if you do prune them, just make sure that you use um, your pruning tools have been sterilized so that when you do prune them, you're not transferring any kind of fungus or anything from other plants that you may have pruned. But then that also gives you the opportunity too to sort of shape them and try and keep them at a manageable height so that you don't want them to get too tall, so you won't be able to reach the fruit. You want to be able to just sort of walk up to them and still pick the fruit. But there's really nothing else that you want to do as far as protecting them over the winter. It's just with the pruning, again, just make sure that it's a clean prune, and that again, get your pruning tools are clean.
And how much pruning should you do? Like, I don't, what's the difference between like over pruning versus just the right amount kind of thing?
Oh yeah, usually when you prune fruit trees, is you don't want to do what they call a hard prune. That means that you're pruning farther down the trunk of the tree. You want to try and keep the pruning, minimal, which is very, very short. Maybe depends on, what height you want to keep the tree at. So I wouldn't prune anything off more than, say, a foot or so when you do the pruning. And a good example is for the cherry orchards around here, they have this big machine that comes in and just sort of prunes the top of the trees off so that they keep the trees low and don't have the long branches that are, out of reach for picking.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we mentioned that some plants actually don't require a lot of rain, and the annuals that do need the rain.
Uh-huh.
Let's say it's a dry winter. How often should people water those plants?
Even though you prune them and they've gone fully dormant, you still need to get out and at least water them, especially if you have a drip system. That would be perfect because you can minimize that drip so that it's getting a good amount of water and a good drainage soil at least once a week.
Once a week.
Right.
Okay.